Hello there. There is nothing more important to a pencil drawing artist like having great blending because we want to have smooth shades. We want our work to look so much original and so printed that nobody would believe that it was a pencil drawing. And because of that, I've decided to make a tutorial on blending. The blending materials I use and how I achieve the kind of blending that I achieve. My name is Osaretin Isaac and this is Blended Art Studio. The content I searched for most on YouTube when I started learning how to draw, even after a long time of drawing, I kept on searching blending. What are the best blending materials, or are there some blending materials that other artists use that I don't know about? Because man, you need to see some people's portraits. It looks so blended, so perfectly blended and so printed, you would fall in love. So through my own research and experience, I decided to come up with these tips that I feel will help you to improve your blending and ultimately improve your pencil drawing skills. Now, the wrong question to be asking is, what is the best blending materials? I'm just going to give you, from my own experience, 3 blending materials that you can use and they are easily available. I'm going to tell you how to use them and why they are good for what they are good for. What that means is that not all blending materials are good for all parts of the portrait. So some materials work better in other situations. So I won't just say one particular material is the best because I'll be wrong. I'm going to start with the most easily available, which is the tissue paper. Just any piece of tissue paper. Then you have the brush. Any of those brushes for applying foundation or for applying makeup, or just a normal artist brush for painting. You have flat brushes and you also have round brushes, but they both work. I feel like the round brushes work better, but you can also get flat brushes if that is what you prefer. And then you have the blending stump. For almost 2 years of drawing, I didn't ever get the blending stump. For one reason, it's not easily available in my area, but also I realized I was so much more comfortable with the tissue. But later I realized that I needed to get the blending stump because I was learning a particular technique of pencil drawing, which is shading without making use of your pencils. That is making use of charcoal powder or graphite powder. So through that whole process, I discovered something, that blending stump in itself is not bad. Because my first experience with blending stump is that once you are using it, immediately the tip gets dirty. And you can no longer take that dirty tip back to maybe some mid-tone or highlight region. You are going to stain it. So I really got frustrated with blending stump because you can't blend highlights region with it properly. It's too hard to blend highlight region smoothly using a blending stump. So basically I've started explaining why different blending materials work better in different situations. So the blending stump actually works best in dark shades. If you're working on the shadow regions, those dark corners around the eyes or inside the nose, the blending stump will serve you right there. Because one thing sometimes we artists forget to do is to blend our dark shades. Now our dark shades are not supposed to be left unblended. I know if you have so much experience blending with brush or tissue, you realize that blending your dark shades is not a good idea. Because your tissue, for example, is going to take off almost all the graphite or charcoal powder from your dark shades. And it's like you're giving yourself double work. So you are shading, and then when you are blending, the darkness reduces and then becomes lighter again. So you kind of like shade again and blend again and lighter again. So tissue paper and the brush are not very good for blending dark shades, but your brush can do better. But tissue paper will definitely just erase and to be as though you are reducing the darkness of the dark shade, and you don't want that. What you need is a very dark shade. The beauty of a good portrait is that your very dark shades are very dark and your highlights are also as bright as they ought to be. Like this portrait my friend did is wrong in the fact that the highlights region are not bright enough. So it's like the entire portrait is a dark shade. You need to have that wide range of shades to give you the real 3D depth and realism. So that is why you need to understand how different blending materials work. So I'll probably draw boxes and then blend each boxes using the 3 different blending materials, which is the tissue, the brush, and the blending stump. So I remember a video I watched when a guy blended with his finger. Well, don't ever blend with finger. I don't know why this guy said finger is good, but that's the thing. There's really no strict rule in art. If somebody else used finger and you were taught not to use finger and the person's work is coming out very good, why are you complaining? So the beauty of drawing is that no matter the process you choose to follow, as far as you get the beautiful artwork as the result, then your process must be right in some way. I may not like it, but don't blend with finger. I'm just saying you can take different roads to get to the same destination. There are no strict rules. So I'll draw the different boxes in different shades so that I'll explain better what I'm saying. So I'll get some mid-tones, some highlight shades, and some really dark shades. So I'll show you that even the blending stump will not do well in all the range, and the brush also will not do well in all the range. Another thing I enjoy and I really like about blending with tissue is that you can fold it and refold it to always get a perfectly clean blending tip. Okay, now I want to point this out. The fact that your brush or your blending stump carries the dark shades to the light area doesn't make it bad in itself. The day I discovered this, I started to appreciate pencil drawing all over again. Realized I've been wasting a lot of good opportunities to make some really awesome drawings. Let me just try and explain what I'm saying. Now the typical way to draw is to create all your shades with your pencil so that both your highlight shades and your midtones and shadows, you shade everything, because you shouldn't leave the white of the paper to shine through in your highlights. So the background is the only part of the portrait that should be perfectly white, unless areas where you are intentionally trying to create a very sharp blown out highlight, but your highlight region should be shaded too. So usually what I do that I don't do as much is that I'll shade the areas of the highlight region using maybe a 3H pencil, and then I will blend it. But that doesn't always come out that smooth. The conventional way I do it when I started, which it works, I'm not saying it doesn't work, I found a better way now, is that I will shade with my pencil every single corner of the portrait. Like the entire portrait is done with pencil even before I start blending, and then I start blending, and then different issues come up. Issues of like some of my light shades are getting darker because my brush is bringing some dark graphite into the light shades, or issues that my dark shades are getting lighter because of my tissue cleaning most of the charcoal off the dark shades, or you have some smudging happening. Different things go wrong during blending. So because of my method of shading the entire drawing with pencil, I thought it was wrong for your blending material to be dirty. That's why for the longest time I never really liked blending stump, because I couldn't use it for the highlight region unless I had to file it and stuff. So what I'm saying is that is not the only way to shade or blend. A much easier way that I realized that a lot of great artists do is intentionally bringing some of the dark shades into your highlight region. That creates a very smooth transition that you can hardly ever achieve with pencil. So intentionally, while you're shading the dark shades, intentionally drag, that is when you're blending the dark areas now, intentionally drag some of your shades into the light areas, and the process of dragging it out creates some nice transition, especially if that's what you are going for. So the tissue paper to me is like the most important tool for blending, and the fact that you can always fold the tip to many clean tips as many times as you want and be done and just straight away, it's just amazing. So it's good for highlights and mid-tones, but just realize that it could lighten up your mid-tones, so be ready to darken them again later. Or if you don't want that, you can use it majorly for your highlights and then use your brush for your mid-tones, because your brush will rarely ever lighten up your shades. And then use your blending stump for the dark areas. So but these rules are not strict, you can use them anyhow. I'm just giving you assistance a little bit from my own little experience. So anyhow you do it, as far as you get a nice effect, it also works, it's also good. So the point I'm trying to make in this video is that one blending material is not better than another in all cases. They all have their advantages and their disadvantages. Even till now I still get frustrated with blending, because I feel blending is the most difficult part of portrait drawing to master, because that's what separates the great artists from the beginners like us, is that their blending is always perfect. Honestly, if I'm able to meet with any very good or any great pencil drawing artist, maybe I mean say Stanley or Mayor, the first thing I'll ask is, how do you blend? Because one thing I've learned is they don't really use pencil to shade the way we do. They just use their brush to apply graphite powder directly on the paper. So that way it's already automatically blended and you don't have the texture that pencil gives naturally. So that's why when you see their work, you think that it's printed and not pencil, because they are not really using pencils that much, unless in the really dark shadow areas. So one thing that will really improve your blending is that use less pencil. Learn to master the control of your graphite, either using your brush or using some other blending materials. So learn to move your graphite around to your will. So even if you are not shading with pencil, you can move graphite around to create shades without even using the pencil. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. So if you can learn that, that will really improve your blending like drastically. Thank you very much for staying till the end of this video. I know it was a very lengthy one, and I'm sure you learned one or two things from it. Subsequent videos may be shorter, but I needed this to be long to pass the message across once and for all. This video is also a sequel to a series I started a long time ago, but I stopped. It's a pencil drawing tutorial series. The last tutorial I did for this series was on I think it was on papers. Yes, I already did it for pencils and I did it for papers. So if you have not watched those videos, I'm going to link it in the description, so please share it with your friends. Anybody you know that wants to learn how to draw, anybody that is an artist, anybody that loves art, can subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's for anybody and it's for everybody. But glad to have you, and stay tuned for the next video.